What happened? I went to the Macca's, 2 chai lattes. I got it. Went to the window, paid it, so on and so forth. She gave me the 2 chai lattes. I picked up the first one and I said, what the hell's going on here? You didn't put the lid on properly. The other one just went bloop, slipped out of my hand because she didn't put the lid on properly. The cups were rather rubbish cups. Bro, this...
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode in the Unleash Potential podcast. I'm your host, Mr. Haji, as always, alongside the boys, Mr. Jabbar, Almi, and Hassan. How you guys doing, man?
Alright, man.
How's your week been?
Beautiful.
That was a good week, man.
Yeah?
Yeah, regular week.
Anything different?
No, not that I can say on the air, no.
You sure?
Yeah, sure.
We can edit it out.
I'm the one editing it, man. I can
Yeah,
edit it out
exactly.
if I want to.
100%. Nah, but mashallah, man, my week's been pretty good, alhamdulillah.
You're not sick.
I'm not
You've been
sick.
sick for a month.
Yeah, alhamdulillah. I recovered last week. I've been good this week, alhamdulillah.
What have you been up to?
Not much, wallah. Just back on the routine, you know. I was sick, had a few days off.
Yeah.
You know, but just back in my routine work, and yeah, just everything else.
I didn't catch up with you guys until when we sat down to record.
Yeah.
That's the only time I see you guys. Man.
Yeah.
Same.
You know, it's crazy. It's
Before
still more
I
than
used to link up with some of the boys, but now it's just Sundays.
which is actually not too bad. Because I reckon if we didn't do it, it would be a lot less. We'd see each other. Because there's some of the boys that we see a lot less now, not even once a week, you know. But it's good that we have something that we can at least come to and be consistent at. But yeah, what have you been up to, man?
Nothing, bro. Same old, man.
It's hard to do
And nothing
something
changed,
when the
bro.
weather's, you know, a little bit.
Oh, getting up to this morning was...
No, but looking back at this time last year, we see each other 2-3 times a week.
A day.
Probably more.
A lot more than now. And now it's like, besides the podcast episode that we link up for.
See, I'm not mad about it because I know you're doing productive stuff on the side.
Yeah.
Like if we see each other 2-3 times a week and now we see each other once every fortnight and it's because but now you're just at home doing nothing, you know, but if I know you're out there working on a project or whatever it is, it's, you know, alhamdulillah, it's your life, you know?
Yeah, of course, man.
It's good, bro, mashallah.
But it's kind of sad to see the further you go in life, like, the lonelier it gets at times.
Think of it as more
I don't
refined.
think it's lonelier, man. It's just you reshift your time
Yeah.
to give it to someone else.
Like a slab
your
of
wife,
clay
your bed, your
and
family.
you're carving it off as you get older.
True.
Think of it that way.
And then you know what happens is once you actually see, if we were to meet 2 or 3 times a week, we wouldn't cherish those 2 or 3 times a week as we do when we come to sit down.
Yeah. And
Takes
you
us a while.
wouldn't have that catch up.
Yeah, and it takes us a while to actually sit down and actually start recording. Why? Because we're actually having that catch
Yeah,
up. You know?
exactly. Which sort of it's pretty alright. It's pretty alright.
know.
But without further ado, man, let's get into today's topic. I don't know, man. I think we've been doing some great topics the last couple of weeks, and this is another great topic. Which again, the reason why we do this podcast is to better ourselves and unleash our full potential as individuals, as a group, as part of a community, and in some extent even national, international scale, you know, because we're all, like, every organization is made up of individuals coming together, right?
Exactly. Yep.
And what I found to be a very, very important aspect in sort of unleashing your own potential and finding inner peace, which is what we're all after, is forgiveness. Is looking past your painful moments, letting go of the anger that you might bottle up, letting go of grudges, and forgiveness. I've heard a lot of people say that forgiveness is not for the other person, it's for yourself. Do you guys want to sort of explain that to me, if you guys have a take on that? Forgiveness being for you, not for the other person? What would that mean?
Yeah, because I think people think that when you forgive someone else, that you are automatically like erasing everything, and that when they say it's for yourself, you understand it in the sense that the minute you forgive the person, like, you've erased their mistakes and automatically you feel a little bit better and so on. No, you're still going to have that feeling.
Yeah.
What you're doing is breaking down the first wall and saying to yourself that, look, I want to start moving on. Right?
Yeah.
So when you forgive, that's the first step. That's the first step of breaking down that big wall of moving on and progressing forward. So when you break down that wall, you allow yourself to move forward. You don't allow the other person to
hold you back.
Yeah, to hold you back. That's why it's for yourself. And you don't feel better straight away. Some people do, but you don't feel better straight away. It's a process that once you come out through that process, eventually you're going to feel better. The reward is towards the end. It's not just at the beginning. Like have you ever forgiven someone and automatically you feel better? I don't know. Like you might get a small shift in like your emotions, but I don't think it is 100%, because the next day you might still remember it and it still hurts again.
Yeah.
Right. So it's not something that happens straight away.
Yeah.
So when we say it's for yourself, it's to allow yourself to move through that process. That's what it is for me. That's how I see it.
Yeah. And to sort of forget, like for example, if it's in a situation of anger, like to let that anger go and let it and stop it from consuming more of your time and more of your energy. Like if you forgive somebody, or you the way I see it, like if somebody asks you for your apology and you forgive, or you forgive regardless with or without an apology, I think it just, you're saying to yourself like, I'm not gonna let this take any more time than it already has. All right. But then, do you forgive and forget?
Well,
do you know about that saying, forgive and
yeah.
forget?
So for me, with for the whole forgiving issue, and is it for yourself? Firstly, is exactly what Hassan said. It's moving on, because we've talked about the power of thought and the how that way you think shapes what you do. Like you can be frustrated doing the same menial task, but you'll do it differently. Like if you're closing a cupboard, you'll slam it. You wouldn't even realize it because you've been frustrated. So thinking about like, oh, this guy stole money from me, or this bad thing happened, like over and over and over again, especially things that you can't control that are over with. Like if you stole $100 from me, I caught it, we had an argument, you know, you gave it back to me and then you asked for forgiveness. It's like at the end of the day, I got my money back, where, you know, it's all good. So me thinking about it tomorrow while I'm at work, or thinking about, you know, whenever it is, it's just going to ruin that moment. I'm going to be thinking about it, I'm going to get frustrated. I might get an argument with, you know, with your sibling or something like that over what? You know what I mean? So it makes you move on and go on with it. With the forgive and forget part, don't forget. No. But like, don't bring it up, right? So when I say don't forget, that doesn't mean bring it up all the time. Like, oh, well, you remember that time you took the $100 from me? Like every week it's actually not the right thing to do.
Yeah.
But for example, if Hassan, if my wallet's left in his room or something like that, out in the open next time, I'm going to be careful, because I know I'm not going to let it happen to me again. So there's obviously I'm going to forgive the person. Like it's over, it's done. Don't let it happen again. But that's not going to allow me to put myself in a position where I have to force myself to be in that. You know what I mean? So don't bring it up. Don't be a jerk about it. Don't keep asking people about it. Forgive the person. Let it go. But don't put yourself in a situation to
be cautious. Remember the lesson.
And
the lesson. Not.
And even if you do end up in a situation like that, don't make a big deal out of it. Just do what you got to do, and that's about it.
Yeah, and depending on the person, like especially if you know the person's at least a decent person and a good kind-hearted person, say it's better to think of it as he did a bad act rather than he's a bad guy. Because the second someone does something bad to you, like, you know, oh, he took $20 from me, or hasn't paid me my $20 back, that guy's a bad guy. Yeah. Right? But if you know, like, he's been my friend this whole time, he might be in a really bad situation, was too scared to ask, I know he's a good guy that made a bad mistake. You see what I mean? So that makes it easier for you to forgive, because like Hafsa said, it's the lesson. You're not putting yourself in that same lesson, and you're forgiving an act that a mistake that a person's made, rather than forgiving a person. Sometimes people forgive a person. You know, have you ever, like, I'll forgive an act, but if you stole from me 10 times in a row, now I gotta, you know, you gotta ask me for forgiveness for you. You know, you as a person, you know, like, am I gonna still hang around with this person?
Forgive the person, huh?
But, I think it all depends on the situation itself. Like, what are you forgiving exactly? Like, what's happened?
Yeah.
Because what's happened, if it's something that's really huge, that affects your livelihood, that affects certain things within your life, that's really huge, I think it's very hard to ask someone to forgive. Because I know so many people that say this person does not deserve forgiveness, this situation cannot be forgiven. But I think you'll find in time, eventually, you're much better off actually forgiving.
Forgive the unforgivable.
But so the easiest way to do it.
But can you?
No, but
you can.
You can.
You can.
But here's the thing: is if you the way I see it is, if you try to look at it and try to forgive it as in like you just your emotions, how you feeling, how you think, like in life, you won't do it. If someone did something really terrible to you, like you said, on a huge scale, it's going to be almost impossible for you to forgive the person. But as a Muslim, you know that obviously, like we said, be precautious. You don't have to hang around with the person no more. You don't have to involve yourself in their lives. You can just forgive them and move away. If you do that, if you're able to forgive someone that's done such a heinous act towards you, on the day of judgment, when you're looking at your sins, how would God forgive you on that day? Like if you've shown mercy on someone, you know,
God
the
will show
most
mercy.
merciful, you know, is probably going to show mercy upon you. So doing it for other reasons other than this dunya might be a way for you to actually be able to forgive someone in that scenario. And like I said, you don't have to be hanging out with the person, getting a meal with them every day.
I want to add something to that. Forgiveness doesn't come straight away.
No.
Even if unforgivable has happened, just because you want to forgive or you're going to forgive or you have forgiven doesn't mean you've done it straight away.
Or ask for
Oh,
patience.
take the time you need, all right? Don't go around bad-mouthing this person. Take the time you need to yourself, for yourself, work on yourself and get yourself to a stage where you can say, okay, I've come out better. I can forgive this person now. I can look past that. You know what I mean? But then forgiving does not mean that that person is back in your good graces. Things won't be the same. Your relationships, you forgive the person, but you're not might not be in a relationship again. But if you guys see if you see the person on the street again, you'll say salam, you'll say hi.
Yeah.
Right? Somebody stole from you. Right? You'll never if this is somebody that had access to your accounts or whatnot, they will never have access to the accounts, I guarantee you. Right? But you'll forgive the person. If you come to a gathering, you'll say salam, you'll have a laugh, right? So understand that just because this person that maybe hit you right now or stole from you or said something bad to you right now, just because you didn't forgive them on the spot doesn't mean you haven't got... People are still holding on to things that happened 10, 20 years ago.
But it's
You know
a
what I mean?
principle, man.
Exactly, but forgive now. You know what I mean? Let it go.
And that's what it is. It's
think
letting
there's-
it go more than... It's not like letting it go as in like you can just drop what it is.
No.
For me, I find it where it's like, if I get really angry in the middle of a situation, I'm like... The second, you know, you get frustrated, you get that little quirk, like little look like, yo, like what's going on? Like you start getting frustrated.
heat up straight
The
away.
second I get that heat up with, I'm like, the way I think about it is I'm in a pot, I gotta leave. You know what I mean? So like, like if someone's doing something, I'm arguing, this guy's saying some silly stuff back, like, and it's not stopping, and I can tell this is going somewhere, I'll walk away. Because I know that I can't forgive myself when the stimulus is looking right me, like in my face. Like the person that's causing me all this annoyance and anger is looking me right in my eyes, and you're telling me to forgive the person.
Yeah.
Like I need to step
You
away.
take
for a
that
while.
time.
So
Take that time.
I'll go spend a day or two to myself, right? And that's one thing of taking yourself out the situation. But there's also people that put themselves in a situation where they won't forgive, where they'll do gossiping and they'll go, like, you know what this person did to me, and he talk, and then you start talking to that person back and forth, and you build in this animosity. You know what I mean? And it's a grudge that sticks, and then it becomes worse. Now you're backbiting and you're spreading rumors.
Which shows you the quality of friends that you keep around you.
Yeah.
If they're advising you to forgive and let go, for yourself as well.
I think, okay, so if the way I would process it would be that if something actually happened to you, right? The idea of forgiving and forgetting, it's like I said to you, it's a process, right? And the first part of the process is that you have the willingness to forgive, regardless of whether your emotions or your mind or your heart is telling you don't forgive, or you can't forgive, that it hurts too much for you to forgive. So it's all about the thought process first.
Yeah.
Pushing past through that thought process, taking your time, yourself away from the situation. That's all good and everything. Giving yourself time, that's all good. But the key step, the first step, is to say, you know what? I don't know how I'm going to do it. I actually don't know how I'm going to forgive this person, but I'm going to try anyway. Why? Because it's commanded in the Quran, in the Hadith, that the benefits of it is so much that it is prescribed, not prescribed. It's actually recommended for you to forgive, right? Yes, this is your haqq. You have the right to take your right back, okay? But it's so much better for you to forgive. So the first process, or the first step of that process, is to actually think about your willingness to actually forgive. So take yourself out of that situation. Give yourself time for your heart to come to terms with your mind. So if your mind says forgive, but your heart keeps hurting, wait for it. Eventually time will heal it. Or put in steps so that you can actually resolve this emotional issue that you have, to forgive the act or forgive the person, right? Eventually it's going to reach a stage where now you're able to actually say it to the person. And that's when you've passed the point where it's all about you, and you've moved forward into, now I'm way past it. Now it's about you.
Yeah.
Now I'm giving back to you this charity, right?
Yeah.
That look, I forgive you, so you can deal with the issue yourself. So
yourself.
now you're okay,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But you got to take care of
That's
yourself.
the ultimate
first.
level.
That's the ultimate level.
When you like you said, have moved past all your issues to give to that person now. You know what I mean?
But that domino effect only starts when you have that willingness to forgive, okay? And you push past what your heart or your mind or your your emotions are telling you. Because you might be really angry at what they did. You might be really upset. And you might make rash decisions and say, I'm never going to... And once you say it, your ego won't let you,
But that's
not forgive, right? So don't do anything. Take yourself out of that situation. Give yourself time. But the first thought you should always try and push your mind to tell you, make sure that you start the process of forgiveness.
In a moment of anger, you know what people do? That I find the biggest thing they do is they void all the good that this person may have done throughout the years that you've known them.
They just look at
for that one act.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, it depends how big that act is.
Depends. Exactly.
It actually does depend.
But not even that. Like a lot of the times, it starts off with something that can be forgivable. Someone will do something rather than just the sorry and then okay, you're forgiven. Someone will say something. Like it becomes a bigger thing because, like you said, and that's the reason why I brought up okay, I need to get out of this pot right now, is because a lot of the times, it's the hardest part is when you're in that moment to think about it. You might be later on at home in the evening about to go to sleep and go, all right, you calm down after a shower, something like that was a stupid decision. You know what I mean? But when you're in that moment, you can escalate it to a point where it's not going to be forgiven by either party or whatever it is. So being able to hold your tongue and stop it from getting worse, like that is such a crucial thing. And it's easier for me to think, and this is just a personal thing, and like if it works for you, it works for you. It's easier for me to think, I'm in the wrong environment, let me leave and pull myself out of the environment, than it is to go, oh, okay, I'm in a very bad environment. I need to start thinking of how to forgive the person.
No.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like obviously now I find myself in certain situations where I can do that. Someone's very frustrating, annoying, getting on my nerves, did something wrong, and I can just stand there and be over it because you've done it so many times where it's water off your back. But there are some times where things are like, oh no, I'll be standing in the situation going, oh no, I need to leave, because if I don't leave, and I know I should forgive the guy, and in that moment I'm thinking I should forgive the guy, but if he keeps talking, I'm gonna crack him.
See,
you know what I mean?
I
Like
agree with
even
you.
in that
I agree with you
moment,
in that sense, because if we're having a heated argument, right? I think to myself, if I stay longer, I'll say something that I can't forgive myself for.
Yeah.
I mean, and the longer that goes on, right? But I just want to shift it a little bit from this.
Okay.
2 seconds. Almost been a bit quiet. I want to shoot him a question. How do you deal with forgiveness? And when something happens to you, how do you process forgiveness? And is it something you progress, or you just shrug it off?
Man, like I try to shrug it off, but at the same time the shaitan's there. Like when you go through something where someone, you've done something, someone's
both ways, whether you've
vice
done
versa,
something,
like the first thing I try to do, we're Muslim, got to say A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajeem, I'll try to do my wudu, and then if I remember, to pray 2 rak'ahs, and then that calms you down a bit, and then, bro, just forgive, bro. Life's too short, man. Life's too short. Like me and this guy, we're playing basketball on the court.
But people find it so weird because me and Elmi
every word
could
in
be
the
on
dictionary, bro.
Me and Elmi
we going off at each
court.
other. Nah, that wasn't a foul. This, that. At the end of the game,
Bro, me and Elmi,
forget it.
people
But
will look at us like we're
I
about to kill
forgive,
each other.
but I never forget. I said, "Fudge,
Next time I'm like,
Next
But
game.
I'm on
these
a
are
wood.
small issues. I'm talking about something major. Let's say it's
something
major.
major,
that happened.
something major happened.
Like somebody offended you, stole from you, something big happened.
Let me tell you something about life, bro. If it was meant to happen, it was meant to happen. God put you there for a reason, right? Whatever situation it is, it happened. Forgive. You can't forget, bro. We're not a computer. Control and to delete. You can't just delete it out of our system.
You don't forget.
Never
I
forget what.
But does that influence your dealings with this person later on?
Yeah, to a point, but don't always have that at the back of your head. Oh, this guy messed me up. Be cautious, but it's like
in that instance.
It's
I know
like-
what he
it's
means,
like-
because if
I'll give
you're
an example.
cautious, if you keep it in the back of your mind
understand this
continuously,
example.
you're gonna treat them differently.
Understand this
say
example.
forget,
Say the
don't
person's
treat
the
them
ocean, yeah?
Yeah.
The person's don't go diving, bro.
Yeah.
Get a bit of water of the ocean, tap on your face.
That's see you later.
You get where I'm coming from?
Yeah, I get
That's my take of things.
Yeah.
Give him his due right.
Yeah.
Just like,
Yeah.
bro, we're Muslims, and like you got to deal with people the best way you can.
Yeah.
All right.
So if somebody stole from you, don't deal with them in terms of money, but still hang around with them as friends as
Kick
the
back.
way you are. Yeah.
Like if this person stole from me, disrespected me, bro, I'll get like. It depends, man. It depends, wallahi. Like the best way, the way of the Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, try to do things the best way and like be calm about it.
Yeah.
But for me, as person, if someone personally stole from me, bro, I'll tell you straight to your face, man.
See, the way I see
Yeah,
it is
bro.
like there's
Or you give them like I wouldn't recommend this, but like if someone like you don't get a lot, just give them their space, bro. Like always say salam,
Yeah.
because like even if he's Muslim, say hello, whatever. Always say salam.
that's it.
Just keep
That's the
distance,
bare
bro.
minimum. But to me, it really depends on when you say what they do to you. It's like we talk about stealing money. If someone steals money from you, it's most likely because they need money. You know what I mean? Like for assuming,
okay.
right? Yeah. So to me, when I see that, it's easier for me to forgive. Obviously, depending on the amount of money that messes you over, because it's like
I still consider stealing money, like depending on the value, obviously. But I still like consider stealing money as something that's petty. Like you just wouldn't trust the other person.
Yeah.
Right?
Because the way I see
know,
it
To
is,
what extent though?
Because how can they steal your money unless you're being like
Careless.
nah, I don't see it that way. I see it as
I mean, the most nowadays we've got cards and everything, right?
Yeah.
So if we're talking like
Cash.
$500, $600 or whatever,
You
I
get-
think the biggest issue a lot of people have is when they lend money and this
they
person
get it
doesn't
back.
repay
Yeah.
it. And
Yeah.
now even when you ask him, he tells you, no, I'm not going to pay you.
See,
or
that's
I've already
different.
paid
That's
you.
different. Yeah.
You see, if
That's-
it's in that situation,
that's
right?
unforgivable.
Yeah, no, it's forgivable, but you learn the lesson.
Yeah.
If it's something as stealing,
Yeah.
like you can just be like, you know what, keep it as a sadaqah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
That's
that's
how
for you.
that type of person, you know, obviously, if you give him money, says, I'm not going to pay this or that becomes sadaqah for you, brother.
Yeah, of course.
But the way I see it is,
If you look, the thing is, coming from that situation, you always got to look at the positives of every situation. Don't say you gave this guy $500, he doesn't want to pay me back. At the end of the day,
Sadaqah, $500.
you know what you say? We're Muslims, bro.
Yeah.
Leave it to Allah, bro.
Yeah.
but
You gave him the $500. He hasn't paid you back. He said he's not going to pay you back. Don't get angry. Try to forgive, but don't forget.
Yeah.
Don't give him money again.
Yeah.
You got to switch your brain on. But leave it to Allah and, make dua. Say, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, make sure this doesn't happen to me. Like,
I'm
ask for
talking
dua,
about,
But
big
dua is
family
powerful,
issues.
cuz.
I'm talking
You know
about
what
big
I mean?
things
To me,
that
the-
happen
the-
in your life that like life-altering events
Yeah.
and issues,
well,
that happen,
I categorize
that
it in.
seem unforgivable. That
Yeah.
when somebody hears about it, they say,
Wow.
"Oh, I can't believe that."
Yeah, that rarely happens though, right? And a lot of the times with that, you rarely will deal, like, unless it's family, like you said, you already deal with the person. Because if it's a friend or like a co-worker,
But that's the
whatever
one
it
that
is,
hurts the most. That's the one that you can't
Yeah,
seem
but-
to
but
like forgive.
what I'm saying is
It's
family's
the ones
one
that
thing.
come from your closest.
family is one thing, but if a friend does something where I told you and you just go, yo, you think I'm ever gonna see that dude again in my life, other than he's probably across the road?
No, but this is like a lifelong friend. Like you
still
end it based on that
you're
one
your friend,
issue.
man. Like
The one thing I would say is, regardless of the situation, right? Don't ever put it out into the air that you will never forgive this person.
Yeah.
The minute you say,
Yeah.
I'm never going to forgive you,
Yeah.
now you've
Well-
backed it up with your ego.
Yeah.
Because later on, when you try and go through the forgiveness process,
a lot.
your ego stops you.
Yeah.
Always there. You're
Always.
like, but you said you won't forgive him. Now
Yeah.
you're going to look like
Yeah.
a little girl, you know?
Yeah, but to me, there's two ways that people, like, when they're asking for forgiveness. The when I look at it, I'm like, did you do something, like, was it intentionally towards me? So, for example, if you ask for money and never give it back, knowing that you'll never give it back, like saying, I'm not going to give you that money back, that's you intentionally messing with me. Rather than, you don't have fuel, whatever it is, you're short on cash, you saw my wallet, Abdi wouldn't mind if I take a little 50 from his, like that there, it's easier for me to forgive because you were just looking out for yourself and you thought I would be okay. You know what I mean?
You're
When
not
someone is
intentionally trying to harm me.
when someone's trying to attack you, like I'm going after you,
Yeah.
like that's where for me it's really like everything else, like I can forgive. Like if you steal $1,000 from my
I feel
wallet,
like you keep talking about money as if like
No,
somebody-
no.
Somebody stole from him.
no, 'cause money is the biggest one.
But yeah, no, I
money
get
is
you.
the
Yeah,
biggest
yeah.
one when I really think
financial
about it.
dealings nowadays.
Yeah, it's the biggest one, especially with the thing. But the way I like to, but the reason why I say with the stealing and the asking for money, because it's dealing with the same thing, but looking at it two different ways. As in someone
I get it,
attacking
yeah,
you
yeah.
versus
Absolutely,
someone not
absolutely,
attacking
no.
you. And for example, if you do something in the heat of the moment versus if you meticulously plan this to happen to me, those are two, you know what I mean? Like
different things,
there's
yeah.
I can forgive and forget and then move on with you. And then there's I can forgive and forget, and we're no longer like a thing.
But think about it like this: like we always try and live our standard up to the Prophet ﷺ, and then the companions, and then the tabi'een, and so on, right?
Yeah.
So you look at the Umar ibn al-Khattab, for example. Someone came and stole from him and ran away.
Yeah.
And Umar ibn al-Khattab's initial reaction was not, this guy, he's a thief, he's this, slander him, whatever.
Yeah.
He ran after him and told him, come back. I forgive you so that you don't get.
Yeah.
That's next level. Like that's something we can't even contemplate.
So that doesn't become a sin in you.
Exactly. He's not even concerned about himself. He's like, money comes from Allah. It's not even a problem, right? I'm looking out for you. Yeah. So what I'm saying is, don't worry about all of that. Don't worry about the other person for now. The easiest step is worry about yourself, because when you harbor these emotional grudges and so on, you're affecting yourself, your health. You know how many people stress over petty things, petty issues that happen to them? Yeah. They can't even go and have a proper productive conversation with someone without bringing that in and tainting that conversation. Yeah. It affects your ability to eat, your ability to sleep, because now every day you're just thinking about what this person did to you and cut you, and the way they hurt you, or
it affects your mood.
It affects your mood,
which in turn affects the mood of those around you.
Exactly, your whole being. It affects your ability to even move and enjoy life.
That brings
you're allowing this person to cut you twice.
Yeah, it's
you
crazy.
Get it, and you're not even thinking about the second time that they're cutting you. You're more concerned about the first time.
Yeah.
And you're letting it again the second time to happen.
Because you're worried about the first time you're getting cut.
Exactly.
That brings us to the next point, which is the positives. We talked about forgiving and the importance of it. What are the positives of actually forgiving?
I want to touch on the fact that you have to forgive yourself as well for your own acts before we get into the positive of forgiving, because we talk about forgiving other people. Yeah. A lot of people don't forgive themselves. They'll do something that they'll say, that's so on me, whatever it is, that they'll just section off an area and be like, I'm done with that. You know what I mean? For example, if I did something wrong with you, I said something, I was like, man, I made a fool of myself in front of Hassan. I'm not going to see him next week. I'm going to be embarrassed. You know what I mean? Or whatever it is, or with your spouse or something like that, you said something, or you've done an act that's haram or whatever it is, and you go, it was so bad that I can't even forgive myself. How can I ask for forgiveness? Being able to forgive yourself, even for your shortcomings, is what allows people to move on. Because a lot of people go, how do I I messed up so much, I'm not going to be a really good guy. How am I going to move forward? You know what I mean? We've always talked about stumbling, getting up and going on, keep going again. Sometimes you stumble over your own footsteps. You messed up because of you. And unless you can forgive yourself, because if you're forgiving yourself, and the reason why I put it that way as a forgiving is you see it as a mistake, not as an actual part of you. So if I try to do something and I fail at it, rather than me saying, that's my capabilities, that's how far I can go, I'm done trying with it. If I say, that was a mistake, I forgive myself, it's something I can override and continue achieving.
Yeah, a lot of people don't actually realize their contribution towards an issue. Sometimes they have zero contribution, other than the fact that they've positioned themselves in that environment to be affected, right? Mm-hmm. And sometimes they had a hand in it, but they completely negate that and forget that, and concern themselves with what the other person did to them, because what they did to them was a lot bigger than what they did, right? So, and that's how shaitan works, right? He opens this door, this door, this door, and then eventually the flood comes, and then you get hurt, and then you say, who let the flood? This person is the one that's to blame, without realizing that you allowed all these doors to open.
You put all that fuel on that fire.
So, I think part of I get what you're saying, and that's really good as well, but when you start to look at the benefits of it, and going back to your question, what are some of the benefits? I think the main benefit is coming back to the understanding that you are starting the process. You are starting the process the minute you start to forgive, or you allow your mind to say, I'm going to forgive this person. I don't know how, but I'm going to try. You are starting that process. And what you're doing is you're putting a huge wall behind you, so that the minute you try and look back into that issue and rehurt yourself, you're blocked. You're like, but I've already said I'm going to forgive this person. Now am I going to go back on my word? No, man, I can't. Now I have to move forward. There's no other way. I have to move forward. The second thing is that the minute you forgive, right? The minute you forgive, even from your mind or your heart or whatever, Islamically we are taught that there's a virtue in it, right? There's many barakas, there's many blessings. Even there's a story of the Prophet ﷺ who was sitting in the masjid, and his companions were around him, and he said to the companions, a man will enter from this door and he is a man of Jannah.
Yeah.
And then someone walked in. And then the next day he said the same thing. He said, a man will enter through this door and he is a man of Jannah. And the same man walked in.
Yeah.
And on the third day he said the same thing. And that same person walked in. And then one of the companions said, I have to find out what's wrong with this guy. Like, what's he doing that I'm not doing?
I have to live with him, yeah.
Yeah, so he made up some excuse. He said, look, I'm having some family troubles or whatnot. Can I stay with you for a short period?
Yeah.
Just to suss out his life, just to see what he's up to, you know? And by the end of the stay, he said, I couldn't find anything that he was doing unique. Even the salah, like he would just do the bare minimum.
Yeah.
He wouldn't even fast. He wouldn't eat. He wouldn't pray extended prayers.
Yeah.
He wouldn't do night prayers or whatever. He wouldn't even read Quran as much. He didn't memorize. Like there was nothing unique that he was doing,
different.
right? That could be visible.
Yeah.
So he asked them. He said, "Look, I stayed with you, and I lied to you that it was due to family issues. But the only reason I stayed with you was because the Prophet ﷺ said this.
Yeah.
So I came to find out what it is, and I couldn't find anything on you. Can you tell me what is it that you do that's unique
different.
that I can't even see?"
Yeah.
He said, honestly, there's nothing that I do unique. The only thing that I do is probably before I go to bed, from my heart, he said. And that's the key, right? From my heart. And he goes, from my heart, I forgive each and every person who has wronged me before I go to bed.
So,
I forgive, literally forgive from my heart. So now it doesn't affect him. This guy's getting a double reward. He's living a happy life because the next day he's waking up refreshed, right? And he's doing this process consistently to the point where he's able to just forgive from his heart. What we're saying is because you're not accustomed to this process, start it from your mind first. Then work through that process. And hopefully you don't get yourself into a situation where you have to always forgive, right? But when you are constantly forgiving people from your heart, that means you've reached another level. You've reached a level where you can just tap past the mind and go straight to the heart and just forgive someone for something that's affected you. And you get the benefit of it in this life and in the next. Like that's crazy. Just to enter Jannah for the sole purpose of forgiving someone.
Because that shows how hard it is sometimes to forgive.
It is.
Like, for someone to be going to Jannah, but just because he forgives every night, it seems such a small task. Yeah. But like, why don't we do it then? You know what I mean? And to me, the positives about forgiving is like antivirus on your computer, because that's what. Like, you know what I mean? That's the whole point. When you have a conflict, it's like a virus. It's draining from you.
It's
you
a
know
software
what I mean?
update.
Yeah. You software update, clear everything out, scan, delete. But that's what it is. Because, like I said, forgiving yourself when you stumble over your own mistakes, forgiving others, what it does is it clears the roadblocks. So now you can live your life without having to worry about other stuff. Because all this arguing, forgiving, this person wronged me, this person did that. That's just taking so much from your goal in your life. Well, what do you want in life, Achieve the things you want to achieve. Right? If I go to work and it's time for me to start my day, but I'm arguing with the coworker for the first 15 minutes, like, why did I come to work? What was the point of working, Like, removing these roadblocks is what it does. And the other thing is, if you're finding yourself forgiving or trying to find out, should I forgive someone often? Then look at your group of circle of friends. Like, why do you need to be like, when's the last time obviously we ask forgiveness for all the small things. When's the last time I had to ask forgiveness or forgive someone that's in my circle for something serious, kind of serious?
Yeah. So
you know what I mean?
It comes back to you haven't contributed anything other than the fact that you've put yourself in that circle, that environment, right?
Or it might not even be the environment, it might be you. Like, someone will look at you funny, you go, what are you looking at me? And the guy, nothing, no, you are. And you have this whole little, and what for? It was not because that guy might be a jerk. Some guy might bump your shoulder, whatever it is. But how you deal with that
the question I want to ask is,
it shows level of maturity, bro.
It does.
Forgiveness, always shows level of maturity. Let me tell you what happened to me last week. Remember that scenario? I was telling you in the car. A situation, I went to the Macca's, got 2 chai lattes.
what happened? I don't know.
We were at the
Messed up
meeting.
situation, bro.
What happened? No.
I went to Macca's. Let me tell you a story.
Detail it.
This
I'm going to tell the
this
first
is-
10 minutes.
No, hold on.
We're at the meeting.
Okay.
And we rocked there, we're a little early. There's a few people late. So Almi comes up. He's like, oh, there's no one here. I was like, I need a drink. Is there anyone around? I was just like, I'm going to go get a drink. You want anything? He's like, oh, yeah, give me a chai latte. And he asks everyone else, no one want anything. So then he goes. He never comes back to the meeting again. He was there early. Went to go get some coffee. Came back. He told me afterwards. I called him up, obviously, like, what's going on? And he tells me the story.
This is what happened. I went to the Macca's, 2 chai lattes. I got it. Went to the window, paid it, so on and so forth. She gave me the 2 chai lattes. I picked up the first one and I said, what the hell's going on here? You didn't put the lid on properly. She said, oh, sorry, the cup's damaged. The cup's damaged. So she switched the cup. She put it in the chai in a whole new cup. Gave it to me. Gave me 2 cups, went. Alright, picked them both up, went out the car. And then the one she fixed was good. The other one just went bloop, slipped out of my hand because she didn't put the lid on properly. The cups were rubbish cups. Bro, this chai latte spilled literally all over me. Went all over my seat, underneath my car, all over the place. Like, it was, bro, imagine milk getting spilled all over you. Then I was like, I just said, I would blanch down, Jimmy.
No, you
like,
didn't say
I'm telling you. I'm a witness. I'm a witness.
Bro,
I went like,
we know that's not what you said.
I was about to explode. Then I said, you know what? Worst things have happened to me, man. It's like this. I just drove the car, went home, went to the car wash, cleaned it. I was very calm about it.
Yeah.
Normally, if I was a lot younger, I would have said that.
You're a snap.
Where is she, man? Where is she? I would have snapped. I went back to the Macca's and just went off her. I would have said, look what happened, you know?
You actually didn't go to the Macca's?
I didn't go to Macca's. I said,
no.
you gotta,
There's growth.
There's
growth.
You gotta. I said, you know
Alvin
what?
hasn't gone back to the Macca's.
I've been worse than this. I said, bro, let me tell you something, bro. I've had some crazy accidents. I've had an accident in the city, in the CBD, bro.
Yeah.
5 o'clock, peak hour traffic. Yeah? I've had an accident, bro. Well, I've hit someone.
Yeah.
And there's hundreds and thousands of people watching. And imagine everyone bringing out their phone recording you, bro.
Yeah.
How are you going to stay calm? And literally,
them, mate,
there was a whole crowd screaming at me, oh, you bloody idiot. Learn how to drive, this, that. It wasn't my fault. The guy was speeding. But then I was like, you either stay calm,
Forgive him, man.
or you... There's me. I'm two streets.
Yeah.
I'm gonna stay very calm.
Yeah. Or you're gonna blow it up.
Or things are gonna get loose, bro.
Yeah.
So the best thing, and as Muslim, you know, the right way to do is stay calm.
Oh, mashallah.
But
You know, so it's
Which
from like my story, my event is
Personal
like
growth,
it's all about your level of maturity, bro.
Yeah.
Like you just gotta stay calm, bro. You know,
Well,
you
he's
gotta
right
stay
with
calm.
the
I
bro.
actually agree with that.
Because it goes back to what you said. There's things you can say or things that you will do that you won't forgive yourself for, man.
Yeah.
Because what's that saying? The heat of the moment.
Yeah.
What happened? I said, that was the heat of the moment. But sometimes you might say something or do
Because
something
the
to
issue
someone.
might be small, but
Yeah.
what you say or
Yeah,
do to
but
that
it
person
can affect
almost
everyone for the
anger.
rest of his life. Yeah.
Cannot be like you.
Bro,
won't-
let me tell you, there was
be
this
able to
one
face
guy
the
who's
person.
got this one guy. I don't even know him. He's gone ballistic at me, bro. That I crashed the guy, bro. I said, man, what if I just smack this guy, man? Because he was a
number
short
2.
guy. He was on a bike, man. Little short midget guy. I said, man, let me just smack this guy. But I said, if I smack him, I always think ahead. Always 2 steps ahead. That's the way.
Lawsuit,
That's the way I'm.
court
That's
case,
the way
all
I'm
these
programmed. I said, look at all these people with their phones
Yeah.
and their cameras. I said, nah, it's not worth it,
worth
man.
it.
I got too much to lose, bro.
Yeah.
No, but with the car thing, it reminded me of.
But at the same time, what I'm thinking,
Let me catch you another
let
time.
me follow this guy to where he lives. You know what I mean? That's what I think anyway.
me
But
get some red
it's the wrong way. But yeah, you know what I mean. We're human beings, bro.
But yeah, like I was saying, like with that car accident, I remember last time I was in court. It's a minor offense, and I remember listening to a drunk driver killed like a 16-year-old or something like that. Like, and just the look on that person's face, crying in tears and stuff like that. I'm like, imagine that person trying to forgive themselves
Yeah,
for
that's crazy.
drinking, getting behind the wheel, killing someone, and now they have to live with that. Like, you know what I mean? Like, we're talking about, like I said before, we're talking about $20, but there's things that are like, can you even forgive yourself? Like, would you forgive someone else if a drunk driver killed your spouse or your sibling or something?
If it's something like huge like that, that's what I mean. Like
Yeah.
if you the thing is,
Have
like,
you
there's been some videos, for example, of the victims' parents
parents
or
forgiving
relatives. They
the-
forgive the other
in
person.
court, yeah.
But
it's
you're
pretty-
right. The forgiving yourself is the hardest part. Even in the Quran, for example, Musa alayhi salam, when he killed unintentionally someone, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he said to him, وَنَجَّيْنَاكَ مِنَ الْغَمِّ وَفَتَنَّاكَ فُتُونًا. He said, and we have saved you from this remorse, this ability to forgive yourself. That's very difficult. Like even Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had to step in.
Yeah.
So if it's something huge like that, I don't know, man, like forgiving yourself, that's a big part of forgiveness in general, because it's a full package, right? Like you said, 70% of it is, if you're the victim, 70% of it is forgiving the action, right? And moving
Moving
past
past it.
and everything. And then the other 30% is eventually forgiving the other person so that they can move on and whatnot.
Elmi said it clearly. If he made a mistake at that during the accident in the middle of the city, he would have to be looking to forgive himself a few days later. You know what I mean? Like he would have put himself into a position where he had to forgive himself for making a stupid decision that pushed it too far over the head. You know what I mean? So, and also the small stuff, like you said, the big one is the drunk driver, whatever it is, the big one. But the small stuff affects your character. If you're someone that's constantly blowing the top off on every small situation and having to look back and go, that was stupid, that was stupid, that was stupid.
But if somebody
that's your character.
Okay, so
It comes back to
if somebody
the
hits you,
personality,
if somebody's driving, right, and you're driving and somebody, you know, hits you from the back or whatever, you automatically get out of your car and say, oh, you don't know how to drive or whatever. Like the first thing, your first instinct, I know, see? The first instinct should always be like, check if the person's okay. You don't know, maybe they're unconscious. You don't know, maybe they had a little seizure or something and ended up, you know, crashing. You don't know all of these
I'll
things.
admit that's the last thing that comes into my head.
I know that, but yeah,
You don't have
you're
insurance, do you?
But the thing is,
I do have insurance, but still,
the thing is, in
the
life,
inconvenience of getting.
the thing is, in life, everything you go through, like for me personally, whatever happened, like accidents and that. First thing I always try to think, bro, there's always like when you get time when everything's finished and you're driving home, whatever, you're in the tow truck, whatever, you gotta think, you know what? There's always someone that's got it worse than you, bro. So if you have that sort of mentality, you're always winning in life, man. Just say alhamdulillah, bro. Like as long as you got your health, you know, the ability to walk, talk, run. That's why you gotta say alhamdulillah, be grateful, thankful, man. Don't worry about it.
Let everything go.
Let everything go. Leave it to Allah.
With that philosophy, a lot of things in life become meaningless. All these petty little arguments and everything. But then sometimes that is not in the back of your head, and anger or the spur of the moment takes over. That's where the whole like. First of all, stopping it before it gets too far, and
like,
then
from my experience, if you think about, look, there's always someone that's got it worse. And you think about death.
yeah.
If you always have death at the back of your mind, what about if tomorrow I pass away, that person passed away, and we haven't forgiven each other or anything happened? If you think about that, you were like, hey.
That brings to another point. Like
you know
somebody
what I mean?
you just had.
Like, I'm not saying that always think about it. Like sometimes, like I do think about it. You know, shit, what about if I passed away tomorrow? You know, think about it. Say, hey.
What about the person you're supposed to forgive passes away before you have a chance to?
You never know, bro. Life's short, cuz. Life's short, man. Yeah.
A lot of the times it's just a cry for help, to be honest. You know, like the people that attack you intentionally and those that don't do it intentionally as well. Like a lot of the times the way they behave or they act is usually a cry for help. There's some hidden reason behind it. And if you look at that, they need assistance with something. So if they abuse you, it's only because if you look at the background, because of a certain issue that happened to them, maybe they were upset, or maybe there's something that is always a cry for. Because if somebody's happy, if somebody's well off, if somebody's okay, they have no reason whatsoever to come and be concerned with you and try and attack you. Yeah. And even intentionally try and do it, like actually plan it out and go ahead, unless there's something actually wrong with them, right? Yeah. So a lot of the times, if you just view it like if somebody comes in and abuses you, just think of it as like this guy's crying out for help. You'll look at him different.
Abuse you like how? What do you mean?
Like if you come and swear at me or whatever, you know what I mean, and I don't even know you or.
I laugh, bro. Most cats, I laugh. What's your problem, bro? You know, obviously.
Yeah, but if that person keeps going, then Alvi is different.
Then obviously I'm
two roads, you know.
There's two ways. Stay calm, or hell breaks loose, man.
Nah, but mashallah, man. I think that concludes our discussion for the day. It's been rather interesting to see the different points on what you would forgive and what you wouldn't forgive, and I think we sort of have the common agreement in forgiving the unforgivable, no matter how long it takes, and that being more beneficial to us. But I think without further ado, we'll get to the more lighthearted segment, Almi's trivia questions.
Yeah, let's get into some trivia questions. For this one, if you guys get it wrong, I ain't gonna forgive you for that. I can't forgive you for that, man.
He says this every week. It's Australian questions. So these are some other
Australian questions.
You better get it.
All right.
I wonder I'm gonna ask
a few of them have
multiple choice.
Multiple choice. Some of them you just gotta answer. What's the Earth's diameter? A, 8,000 miles. B,
8,000 miles. Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
No,
keep going.
B, 12,000 miles, or C, 16,000 miles?
Can you give it to me in kilometers?
Gotta do the maths, man.
Diameter.
Diameter.
So that's from the center to the.
Nah,
No,
diameter straight
diameter
across.
is the
Straight across.
Straight across.
right
That's
across.
circumference.
It's double
Circumference
radius.
is around.
Circumference is
Radius
around.
is halfway.
from
Radius
the
is,
middle.
come on, man.
Yeah, full 360, man.
Bro, it's been a while.
The R2, R squared.
So either 12 or
I'm-
16,000 miles. I'll say 16.
Yeah.
Honestly, I have no idea.
16,000
what
miles.
I know
I thought it was a bit
kilometers.
longer than that.
16,000 miles.
Think about it, man. Miles, bro.
I think miles is longer than kilometers.
Nah,
I think.
kilometers is longer.
No, miles.
Miles is longer.
Miles are.
So the 12
Wow, one,
Either way.
one
Alright.
kilometer is like how many miles?
Right. Take your guess.
2 point something.
16.
Think about it,
I'm
bro.
going
What
with
was the numbers
16.
again?
Yeah, I go with 16.
8,000, 12,000, 16,000 miles. Remember, it's
I got
miles.
12,000 miles.
They're longer. It's longer than a kilometer.
Okay.
12,000
So
miles.
216, 112.
You're wrong. It's 8,000 miles, bro.
12,000? I would not know.
That's the
I would
diameter.
have never guessed.
So now,
If you gave it to me in kilometers, I would have a lot.
8,000 miles. All right.
Okay.
When was the first Women's World Cup?
Wait, this wasn't the first
For
one?
what?
When?
What sport?
World Cup football. There's only one World Cup, man.
It
Football.
wouldn't be too long
No,
ago.
there's actually
there's-
no.
Are there multiple choice or is it just a guess?
Just guess a year, bro.
Let
Let me give you a guess.
When did women start voting?
I'll give you a range. It's in the 90s. It's in the
A couple of
90s.
years ago.
When were women allowed
It's
to
in,
wear
it's
shorts?
in the 90s.
I
95.
would give it 92.
95, 92.
I think probably like 60s, man.
No.
Nah, he said it's in the
I said
90s.
it's the range is in the 90s.
Oh, in the 90s?
Not the 1900s, 1990s.
It wouldn't be.
I'm gonna give him the benefit of the doubt. Say it's a little earlier.
I don't know.
92.
I'll go a little bit later. 95?
That's
Okay,
what I said.
Oh, you
Five,
said that? Alright,
95.
we'll push it up 96.
96, 95, 92.
92.
Jabal was the closest, 92, but it was actually 91. 16th November 91.
Alright.
Yeah, pretty close. All right. Okay, what is the most common non-contagious disease in the world?
Non-contagious.
Non-contagious.
Okay.
Think about it. What is the most common non-contagious disease in the world? This is not my field, bro.
Skin cancer?
Think about
I
it.
think,
Think
but
about it.
Cancer, yeah. Cancer's not
I'll give you a region.
You said
Slice
non-contagious.
your head. It's in your. It's all in this region, brother. 360 right here. It's in the head. Think about it.
A headache?
Mine,
I wouldn't think headache.
Headache is not a
would be-
disease.
A disease, okay.
Oh my.
It's non-contagious.
Just shoot out.
Not a tumor.
Just throw anything out. Then once, if you get it right, you get it right. If not, I'll give you the answer, and then you guys will know.
Is there such a thing as gum disease? There's no gum disease, eh?
I'll say what was
Something to
that?
do with that.
Cavity.
It has to be
Yeah.
some sort of skin disease, bro.
Gingivitis?
How-
Is that a disease?
How many people have
Don't ask.
cavities? Versus,
Pimples?
This
I
is
don't
not my area, man. I don't know anything
probably a
about
word,
diseases or
is it?
science.
Something to do with the mouth.
I don't know. It could be anything.
I don't know. Gum disease. I'll go with gum disease if there's such a thing.
I don't know.
Honestly, okay.
Okay,
I
gum
have
disease.
No idea.
Just
Can
throw
I phone a
anything.
friend?
Nah, we might start that soon, bro.
Yeah, give us
But
some
then your
Wi-Fi.
friend's gonna search it up on Google and give you the
Don't
answer,
worry,
bro.
I'll call up Google.
You get like
No,
20 seconds, eh?
Go ahead. What's your guess? I don't know any disease.
Gum
that's-
disease?
that's-
Was it gingivitis? Is it called?
That's,
Yeah.
Isn't gingivitis contagious?
no, I don't think it is.
I don't know.
No, it's not.
The flu? I don't know. The flu is contagious, though.
Obviously.
There's a cold.
Just
Bro, just
Bruv, I don't know.
anything.
Pimples. I don't care, man. Far out.
pimples. Actually, might you immune or not? It's a
You know
disease.
what? You're way off. Pimples is way off,
I know.
right? But you got very close. You got very, very, very close.
Gingivitis?
Nah.
Meningitis. What is
It's
it?
actually tooth decay.
I knew it was something like that. Cavity or something.
He said cavity. I'm like, man,
like,
think you get close.
Bro.
How do you guys
Because
close?
most people have
So remember that.
Gum
Oi,
disease. That's literally what it is, right?
Yeah, no, gingivitis.
a tooth decay is like I think
Tooth
it's
decay is
different.
your actual tooth decaying, not the
Yeah,
gums.
I know, but it
How's
affects the
that?
gums, doesn't it?
Yeah, true.
So remember that the World Cup 1991. Try to remember these things, bro.
91, I was
Then
close
it's
to
good
it, yeah.
trivia, you know.
Yeah,
And
so
then
Well,
obviously,
Be
so-
on the
so
same
now-
question next week. Yeah?
Okay.
Get it wrong.
We probably would.
where's the world's longest fence located?
Oh, mate, that's right here in WA. Don't we have the rabbit fence?
The
Fence?
rubber-proof
The
fence.
rabbit-proof fence?
I
Where?
think it's in South Australia.
Isn't it the border of Western Australia and South Australia, and also it's the Western
What do you
Northern
think it is?
Territory.
What do you think it is?
Oh, I'm just gonna say the
fence.
rabbit-proof fence. So it doesn't matter where it is. I'll get that.
No,
Well
it's a
done.
where?
Okay, but when you say a
When you say
fence,
where?
like it can be
Australia.
anything, yeah.
It's a fence. A fence has a stance.
Yeah, Australia.
The-
I'll say Australia. That's
The one Trump is building. No, Australia.
Australia. Rabbit proof. What do you say?
I don't know. I actually got
The
no
Great Wall
idea.
of China.
Think about it.
Nah, that's a wall.
That's not a fence, bro. That's a wall. That's
I don't know. Trump's fence.
It's a fence.
That's a
It's
wall,
not
bro.
This one's not a wall. It's
the
a
Trump fence. Bro, Mexicans would jump over that fence, bro.
The catapult.
You said the longest, not highest. So.
Longest.
Yeah.
As in, longest
so-
means point A to point B is in
You just gotta
distance.
name a country, yeah?
Name country.
Okay,
Australia,
then I'll go with Australia then.
Oh, come
Sack that.
on.
I'll change it right now.
You guys are alright, mashallah. Hey.
there you
Australia, man.
Rubber proof fence, man.
Yeah.
From all the way from, where is it, Northern Territory
Yeah, all the way
to
down.
South Australia. Australia's quite big, man. From top of Australia
Have
all the
you
way
never
to the
seen
bottom.
movie,
Bro,
Rabbit
you know how
Proof
long that
No.
fence is?
Ah.
It's a long
About
fence, bro.
3 Aboriginal kids, I think it is.
No.
They get captured and
Yeah.
taken to like this camp where they get bred out, tried to be bred out, whatever.
Speaking to a Swedish
They
person
escape.
here, man.
That camp, which was run by.
I'll watch it.
Europeans.
Don't say anything
They
else.
escape and they use the fence. To
That
try
was,
and
that was a
get
big
back.
movie, man. Rubber proof
That's
fence.
the
Even
only
the,
form of navigation.
even
Once
the
they
book
find
is
the
quite
fence.
big.
Yeah, I had to
It's
watch.
Alright.
huge, man.
Is that the questions?
One more.
Okay.
Where is the world's most volcanoes located? Think about it.
The
Most
Pacific Rim. Is it?
Pacific
Oh,
Rim.
it's on. Isn't it? It's
Okay,
like
give me
ocean floor, isn't it?
Give me a country. Think about it.
Iceland.
I'll give you a hint.
active
I'll
volcano
give you a hint. Where the most tectonic plates are located? Like, as in, there's quite a bit. There's
I'll
quite a
say
bit.
Indonesia, maybe. Somewhere around Indonesia. So Southeast Asia, Indonesia.
Vietnam.
Because they got all the islands and all.
Yeah,
most of
so
them
pick
are
a country.
made From. Is it a country? It's not a country.
Just
it's
pick
all
a country.
Australasia, mate. Let me
Ah,
go for
no,
it.
that's
Oceania.
a-
Oceania.
That's
yeah.
a continent.
You
yeah.
said what the hell? Vietnam? Okay, you
But
guys,
that really-
you guys are all right.
Pick it.
You guys are
know
all
what-
right,
Yeah.
but you got on the bottom, bro.
Yeah.
Indonesia
Ah, yeah.
has the most
Bruv,
volcanoes.
I was there was an earthquake.
Well, oh yeah, we went to the volcano, but
Oh,
we did, have you been? You've been to the one where you
Yeah,
eat
they've
right
got
off the edge
they've
where
got
you
a
look.
bunch of volcanoes. Yeah.
What you
Active
eat?
ones.
So it's a beautiful scenery where you see the volcano pretty much, and you're eating pretty much on another kind of like mountainside or whatever
Yeah,
it is.
it's huge,
and as
man.
you're sitting and eating, it's literally a straight drop cliff.
Yeah.
And
But
you're
it's a
sitting there
beautiful
eating,
scenery,
you're,
man.
like if you literally one step and you're gone, and you're sitting there eating, looking at this beautiful volcanic view.
What is that volcano erupt?
It's inactive.
No, but what if it does erupt? It will reach.
My local
Oh, we're
contact,
gone.
the
What
driver
do
that the driver
Just
that
enjoy
is
it.
always in Indonesia.
Harry,
that I hooked
yeah,
you guys up
Karaman.
with.
Yeah.
Bali,
Yeah.
Harry,
Cameroon.
That
Alright.
dude, man, far out, bro. Like some of the videos that I see still to this day, he goes to all these volcanoes, and shows us videos
You
and
know,
so on.
he made,
Every time I go there, I just
Bruh,
connect with him.
bro, he messaged me on Facebook. I haven't even been to Bali, bro. I don't know how he added me out. He messaged me on.
Hey,
I think you're
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 supposed
friends
to.
with the boys that
He
went.
was
I don't have any
supposed to
pictures,
come with
bruh.
us,
Ah,
man.
there you go.
Yeah.
But nah, so you link up with them every time you go.
every time.
You have to. And anytime we know someone that's going, we hook them up.
Well, there you go. If you guys
Anyone that wants to go to Bali or
exactly hit us out.
yeah, hit us
Well,
up. I'll connect you with the local driver. He's Muslim and everything, so he'll look after you. Real
and
well.
he actually does all the tours and everything.
And
And,
gives you discounts for all
Nice
the
guy
places.
too.
And yeah.
nah, but mashallah, man. I think that concludes us for today. Some good questions. I learned a few things. Gonna go watch that movie. And
Yeah,
yeah,
That's what you took from it.
that's the last thing I took from it. But yeah, man. It's been a great discussion, and inshallah we'll catch you guys next week. Stay tuned and make sure you guys check out this episode. Like, subscribe, and follow us on Instagram, iTunes, Spotify, and YouTube. Catch you later.